Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Once Upon a Time. So in this episode is very heavily Snow White and Prince Charming centric. Just that wonderful love story. I cannot stress it enough. I made a video a while back, you may not have seen it or whatever, but I ended up talking about the fact is of Jennifer Goodwin and Josh Dallas. Back when this show was in its third season, this probably definitely during the first half of this third season when they were in Neverland, I happened to be watching. I'm like, man, Jennifer Goodwin and Josh Dallas have such good chemistry. It's like, and in the back of my mind, I was like, oh man, I wish they were a couple in real life. That'd be so cute. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna Google it just to see if they're dating one. Lo and behold, they're dating each other. I'm like, that's so amazing. Like, I've never been I've never been that excited about like an on screen couple being a real couple in real life and everything. I think around that time, I could be wrong. I could be misremembering this wrong, but I think that's kind of the same year they first started dating and everything. But nevertheless, it was just like, oh, that's so cute and amazing. I love it. But yeah, I really love in this episode how they ended up remembering a memory that neither of them realized. It's like, oh, we actually met then, because of a situation where she got taken by some guy named Woodcutter or whatever. He's a guy that was basically after her, and they worked together and took the guy down, and he's about to open the lock, and she's like, no. If you look at my face, you're going to be in deep trouble, because basically she's running for her life, because it's like she's literally sold every heirloom she's ever had, everything she's ever gotten from her mom and dad, just as a means of getting money. She even had this sold heirloom of her mom's, something very valuable. It's like she ended up getting like 3 pieces of currency for it, and it's like it should be worth like 100 times that. But the guy was like, oh, you look familiar. Oh, this looks familiar. Only someone from a certain family would be able to have jewelry like this. What's your name again? And it frustrated her, because it's like she didn't have much choice. This is kind of like on the earlier stages of her running away from Regina, because this is before she became, very skilled with a bow and everything and hunting like that. Because actually meeting Charming in this situation without realizing she had met Charming is kind of what inspired her to become the Bandit Snow that you eventually later on got to know in the Enchanted Forest, because she really didn't have anyone on her side. Like, the Blue Fairy kept telling her, it's like, oh, there's people that love you and care for you, but it's just like she was kind of just caught up in everything. I mean, because it's like that thing she sold was something that was given to her mom by her dad, just a trinket of just how much he loved her. And he passed that same thing on to Regina, but Regina kind of cast it aside like it was nothing. So it was almost like she was spitting on their love, and it's like she had to sell it for a measly amount of money, and it's just because she's so desperate. She was even just going to would take the money she had, buy a fairy, and bounce. But meeting Charming in that, under those circumstances, like I said, didn't know it was him. He inspired her, actually, because it's like, you're pretty cunning yourself. And she's like, there's this guy that rides by a certain path. It's like, I guess I can always be cunning and kind of steal from him, because she actually gave the money to Charming so that he wouldn't have to sell the farm. So which is, like I said, I just love that moment of like, hey, they're helping each other out without even realizing they're helping each other out, because it's like they didn't see each other's faces and stuff like that, because it's like their love story is already vast and great, but there's even for them, there was a new surprise there, being like, hey, this is what's going on. It's like, hey, this is a part of our love story, and we didn't even realize just how important that moment was, because that moment set them on their paths. Like I said, it literally, his belief in her, even though they didn't see faces and stuff, their faces and whatnot, it instilled her to become the Bandit Snow that she was, and that kind of helped him kind of once again not give up. It gave him the money he needed for him and his mom to keep their farm and keep going, because he never wanted to give up. And so that kind of probably instilled in him even more, and it even gave birth to that sapling. And because that in itself, just like once again, just Snow White and Prince Charming, just the definition of love stories amongst love stories. And you even have Hook reminding Emma, it's like, yo, your mom is Snow White and your dad is Prince Charming. The love story amongst love stories. Like I said, it's like they always find each other. And then eventually they ended up even finding you, and even you ended up being the one to find them, later on. So it's like never forget what greatness you came from. You came from a great love, and that great love will be your strength to kind of push you on forward into the future and everything. And it's just like, dude, I love it. I mean, because granted, this all started because the evil queen kidnapped Snow, and I love that at the beginning because you see like this queen talking about all this about what she would do. She wants to get Snow White's heart and everything, but you see Snow's not even phased. She's like, you won't. She's not scared or terrified. She's like, you're not going to do anything. Regina charmed us, so it's like you won't be put a protection spell over her heart, so you won't get to them. But then it's like, hey, I got this. Figure out what it is, because in 12 hours I'm basically going to spread it around town. Turns out to be some water from the River of Souls in the underworld. Got it from Gold, which I guess he scooped some of that up when he was pushing his ex-wife into it. I like to assume that's around the same time he got it. Most likely not, but, you know, just kind of for evil sakes and evil purposes, let's assume he did it, like, right afterwards, just to make it super, super, super evil. I mean, granted, he couldn't have done it immediately afterwards, because I'm pretty sure Hook ran back out, if I remember that correctly, like, pretty soon afterwards, so... What I also loved is the fact that you had Regina, and they're like, oh, maybe we got to buy time. And Regina's like, well, there is another way. And she admits everyone's like, well, between me and Rumpelstiltskin, me and Gold, there was kind of chemistry. And the look of the almost disgust on everybody's face, like, ugh. Even Hook is like, really? I guess it's because, for one, not only is he the Dark One, the way he looked too, just being pure evil and everything, and it's like you were really into him and everything. You were into the crocodile, that look of disgust, and just everyone else is kind of like, even Prince Charming's got to look like, wow, Regina, really? And then you have Henry looking extremely, just had to put his head down, just like he was so defeated. Because when you break it down, that's pretty disgusting, because it's like, hey, my mom, once upon a time, had a thing. Haha, you see what I did once upon a time? I'm so clever. I'm so clever I didn't even do that on purpose. I'm that good. Shut up. But it's just like, once upon a time, my mother had a thing for my grandfather. Like my family situation isn't already weird enough. That just added a new extra layer of weird. But like I said, that to me I find so fascinating that we're exploring that, because it did seem like, you know, even through the earlier seasons, you saw the interactions between them, like there might have been a thing. I think I brought it up before, but wasn't there kind of a thing between Gold and Cora? I mean, obviously it was Rumpelstiltskin back then, but between him and Cora possibly? I think that was the case. And kind of played into that, ended up leading Zelena there to see them making out and everything, like hardcore making out too. And Zelena's upset because it's like, you said there was nothing between you, which Zelena knew that. But I guess it's also the fact is like, I don't appreciate the fact is that you're lying to me. And it made her pissed because it's like, oh, you're bringing me here to kind of gloat. I mean, because it's also because she doesn't have the man that she loves anymore. She ended up killing him, Hades. So it's kind of almost like a double-edged sword. I mean, it's like being stabbed twice. Is like once of like, hey, I've got someone and I lied about it. Also, the fact is I got someone and you don't. Even though the fact is that she's turning green and Regina's like, oh, why are you so jealous about it? She's like, I'm not jealous. Then what's up with the whole green thing on your neck and everything? And then they quickly realize, oh, we're being played, and you got played so good. I even love the fact is later on in the episode, you have Zelena kind of taunting Belle and even eventually telling her what happened between them and everything, between the Queen and Rumpelstiltskin. And she confronts him about it. It's like, I heard from Zelena, it's like, I don't care who you date and everything. I did hear about the shears, though. You're going to stay the hell away from our son with those shears. Like, you just want to cut the future because you're afraid he's going to hate you. It's like, do the honorable thing. Earn his love. She's like, well, you know what makes this situation bad is? The fact of the matter is, if you were a straight out evil villain, you can earn forgiveness. Like in the past, you were just a straight out evil villain. And so like, I learned to forgive you and everything. But what makes it extra worse is you have the potential to be good. You are capable of being a good man because she's seen it on multiple occasions. Everyone's seen it. But the fact is he chooses to be evil because he's too weak, because he's too afraid of failure. I mean, and that's something I can get behind. The fact of the matter is a lot of people are afraid of failure because it's like, what if I fail? I'm so scared of failing, I don't even bother trying. That's something I can understand in his, it's like I share that weakness too. And she's just like, you're so weak. Weak to not even give it a chance, even for us, even for our son. And then he's like, Zelina. So I was like, ooh, that's going to come back to bite her in the ass. In what shape or form? I don't know. The thing is, you never cross Gold because he always finds, you don't cross the guy that loves making deals and loves screwing people over. Because that's kind of like his favorite passion is screwing people over, especially after they screwed him over. He does not take being screwed over lightly. So I'm very interested to see what he does in retaliation. A really quick side note, there's a point in the episode where they were looking for the, what was it? The sapling, that's it. And Regina summoned up a pickaxe and hit the ground. She ended up taking one of the dwarves' pickaxes, didn't she? I hope in the next episode we find out that one of them is like, yo, just a little, look like a little thing. I'm like, have you seen my pickaxe? Just because it's like, because I don't know, maybe she conjured it, but I feel like more so than anything, she just snapped her fingers and summoned somebody else's pickaxe just because. It was just a little thing I want to add. And kind of going back a little bit, I honestly thought, she was actually going to disguise herself as the evil queen and get close to him and everything, and then they end up making out, and it kind of weirds her out and everything. I thought it was going to go like that, but it's like, no, we kind of went the even more PG route of just being like, let's cause a little kerfuffle that kind of catch them off guard and everything. But then you get like the point of the episode where it's like, yo, you know what? We're not going to let the town go down, just because of what happens to us. So, like, the fear of what might happen to us, like what the queen would do once she has our hearts. Now that's something I kind of want to really quickly touch on, and then I'll eventually get to the rest of what I was going to say. But when the queen actually does get their hearts, even though she's really after Snow's heart, but it's like, half their hearts belong, half her heart belongs to Prince Charming and everything. So it's kind of like, what I was wondering though is, what would she do? Because that's kind of like her ultimate goal has always been getting revenge, because it's like to ruin everyone else's happily ever after. So it's like, once she has Snow's heart, what then? The whole point was to either keep it or crush it, whichever one met her satisfaction. But once that revenge was gone, because that's the thing, is you never get that side of a villain's story in this episode. I mean, granted, we got it last episode with Nemo, because he's like, hey, revenge didn't do anything. I still had an empty hole in my heart. It just left me empty, because my revenge is all I had. And without my revenge and all that anger, I had nothing. So it's like, what would happen to her? Like, once her revenge is done, what would she do? Like, because that was kind of the thing. Like, Regina's never really said what she would have done after it was all said and done. Because for her, all that mattered was the goal in front of her, and that was getting Snow's heart. And Regina has her, the evil queen ended up taking their hearts, and she had them in her hands. It's like, oh, what is she going to do? My brain immediately was like, she's like, I'm going to make it so you're alone forever. I was like, oh, God, she's about to crush Prince Charming's heart. And then she put him back in. I was like, oh, then what was that? And it's like, oh, put him on a sleeping curse. I was like, okay. And then he's like, yeah, like a sleeping curse is going to work. She's like, yeah, but it's with a twist. And she pops her away. I was like, oh, crap. And the moment he starts running around looking for her, I'm like, I know what the curse is. The moment she wakes up, she's forgotten everything. It's like, you remember everything about your relationship, but she doesn't. Then you have to go through, like, I mean, granted, that could work in a good way, because it's like, hey, you get to make someone fall in love with you all over again. You're already in love with them, and you get to kind of refresh their memories about how you fell in love. I thought that's what's going to happen the moment he kissed her and she woke up. I was like, oh, I was like, but then I was like, oh, I guess, huh. It's like, okay. I was like, please don't let your memories be gone. And then Prince Charming's eyes closed. I was like, oh, no. I was like, it's even worse than, well, I don't know if that's necessarily worse, but it sucks. Basically, only one of them can be awake at a time. Like, as long as the curse is active, when one of them wakes up, the other one goes to sleep. And I was like, dude, that sucks. It's like they will never be awake at the same time. I'm like, oh, the evil queen sucks so much, because it's basically her way. Like, it's like her kind of, it's like, to her, it's the best punishment for Snow, because Snow made her alone by getting Daniel killed. So now it's like, I'll make sure you're alone for the rest of your life, because if you're awake, your husband, the man that you love so much, is asleep. And if he's awake, you're asleep. So it's just like, you will never be able to, you can be there with each other, but never be there with each other. So it's just, I don't know, just an ultimate level of despicable, and it just kind of, it breaks my heart, dude, just to see that it played out that way. I didn't want it to play out that way. Side note, that whole dog thing that Prince Charming, that dog, I forgot the dog's name. Has that popped up before? I hate that when stuff pops up and I'm like, that was seasons ago and you expect me to remember that? It's been years since I've seen the earlier parts of the season. Even though I watched because I think I watched like the first two seasons on Netflix and then caught up on it around the third season. But it's like, even then, it's like, that was a long time ago. Because by the time I caught up with the third season, it was still in the third season. So it's just kind of like, you expect me to remember that far back? I don't think the dog ever came up. Maybe it did, but it feels like that's kind of like this season's specific thing. But it's like he's traveling with the dog and everything. So it probably came up before and I just don't remember. But I mean, with this all said and done, I'm very curious because kind of backtrailing it a little bit. I thought the whole like Snow thing was going to turn out into a little bit more of a longer thing of just like trying to track her down. Like I was kind of halfway expecting the episode to end there where it's like, try looking for her this time and, find out the moment you find her, finding out that things are different. So I was thinking it's going to be something like maybe at the end of the episode, it's like, oh, he never finds her. So it's like the next episode is like, oh, we're going to find her. It's like, we will always find each other. So that's what I was thinking, but it's like, no, was able to find her and everything. But like I said, it being the way it is, and it's just like, oh, that sucks. I wonder, is it something that they can actually break, or will they have to get rid of the evil queen to do it? And if they do, will that make Regina think like the only way she could help them is if she killed herself or something, because that's the only way to get rid of the evil queen? Once again, like, what's going to go down between Zelena and Rumpelstiltskin, after because basically he's still in love with Belle, because he's saying like, what's happening between him and the queen, that ain't nothing. It's not special. It doesn't mean anything. I still love you. And so, especially because like in his eyes, it's going to be like, you turned Belle even further against me. Things were decently good because she dropped off a picture of their sonogram, the sonogram of their son and everything. It's like things were getting good, and then she had to go and ruin it. It makes you wonder what he kind of turned that against the queen, when he'd be like, you know what, I'm not working with you anymore. I want Belle back. I don't want to be with you. So, I mean, at the end of the day, you never know. Maybe at the end of it all, that might just be the true love needed to defeat the evil queen is Rumpelstiltskin. Or maybe he convinces her into thinking they have true love, and it ends up, using it as a means of distracting her. I don't know. The fact of the matter is, there's so many things we don't know, because we still don't know if the evil queen is the person that Emma fought. Because the same thing happened too. It's kind of like they brought it up. It's like, yeah, but you said Prince Charming and Snow White were in your vision, but she's like, yeah, but the Oracle told me like things can kind of shift a little bit. Which is kind of like, depending on how things play out, that vision she got could shift. The only thing that's clear is like she will die at the end of it. So part of me is thinking like, maybe like when things shift, we end up seeing that Regina is with her. Like I said, I just get the feeling like I don't think the person she's fighting is Regina. I don't even think it might be the evil queen. It might be someone. I mean, literally the only people there are Prince Charming, Snow White, Captain Hook, and Henry. So it's literally could be anybody, any villain, any person that was kind of a hero before that might have gotten turned into a villain. For all we know, that might be Aladdin under there. I highly doubt it, but it totally could be. Side note, that whole thing kind of got brought up last episode. I'm very curious where we kind of get in touch with kind of finding out, more about Agrabah's situation and trying to fix that. Will that be kind of a next episode thing? Because it's like, because the fact is, Aladdin cut his strings to being a savior, and I'm thinking what we might end up finding out is that there is a means of restoring him as a savior, or maybe like, him and Emma join together, and it's like, oh, he tries to get Emma to help him save Agrabah, but in the process of it, ends up becoming a savior again. I mean, things could go that route, maybe not. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.